This here's Lenore Zan, and you're watching Fandoms.
Well, hello, everybody. Hi. I know it's probably coming as a bit of a shock. Where's Tony? I got the same questions. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I know exactly where he is. Welcome to Fandoms, the place where everyone can feel free to be who they are and enjoy what they are. Before we get into it, when we talk about where Tony is, I think it's time, and it's very important going into the weekend. We got to hear Pooja's picks.
Welcome back to another segment of Pooja's Picks. My name is Pooja, and I'm here to bring you the latest in movie news. Let's go ahead and take a look into my picks for the week. After its initial delay, Luca Guadagnino's sports drama film Challengers is finally in theaters with Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Face leading the film. The film follows the past and present of Tashi Duncan, as well as her husband Art and her ex-boyfriend Patrick, all of whose lives and relationships intertwine throughout the years, all told through the game of tennis from which careers in the sport are both destroyed and born. I have been waiting to see this, and I cannot wait to come back and let you know how it is, so be sure to look out for a review on Challengers. Boy Kills World is set in a post-apocalyptic world where a deaf and mute assassin named Boy has been trained his whole life to take out the matriarch of a dynasty that murdered his family. While the film stars Bill Skarsgård as the titular character, H. John Benjamin lends his familiar yet iconic voice to Boy's inner thoughts. Boy Kills World is guaranteed to be a fun ride full of pure mayhem that cannot be resisted. Based on the novel of the same name by Robin Lee, The Idea of You depicts the fictional story of a sordid love affair between Solène Marchand, a middle-aged single mother, and Hayes Campbell, the lead singer of August Moon, the latest hit boy band. Despite receiving nasty reactions and extreme judgment from the public, Solène is determined not to let anything get in the way of her own happiness. Not only does this look like to be an entertaining time with lead stars Anne Hathaway and Nicholas Galitzine, but it'll serve as an interesting commentary on the worth of older women given by both society and ourselves. You can stream The Idea of You exclusively on Prime Video. We all have definitely seen this trailer more times than we'd like to admit, but this time, The Fall Guy will soon be hitting the big screen with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt teaming up in this action-packed flick. The Fall Guy follows a stuntman and his director as they set out to find their missing lead actor in order to save their film from being shut down. The film also stars Winston Duke, Hannah Waddington, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Stephanie Hsu. Fun fact, did you know that this film is actually loosely based on a 1980s TV series also named The Fall Guy, which was also about stunt performers? No? Well, now you know. Evil Does Not Exist is a Japanese drama film directed and written by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. The film follows a widower Takumi and his daughter Hana who reside in a small and quiet village. Unfortunately, their lives are suddenly disrupted when greedy developers plan a real estate project for tourists to go glamping in their otherwise pristine village. The film serves as a cautionary tale and a warning about the consequences that occur as a result of environmental destruction and the greed attached to capitalism. And in today's world, it is certainly a message that cannot be repeated enough. Well, that's all that I have for this week. Be sure to tune in to the next episode of Fandoms for another segment of Pooja's Picks. But until then, back to the show.
Back to the show. I'm dealing with a world where the beauty of me filling in on Fandoms. By the way, hi, everybody. My name is Will. Find me everywhere at that Will Wilkins. just about. Part of the beauty of me filling in as co-host for Fandoms alongside Tony, Mr. Marvelite, is that the beautiful part of it is that I have no responsibility. I have nothing to do. I don't have to bring anything to the table. I just got to show up and do the work and react off the other guy, you know? And now, not so much. So we're in a strange new world. And I'm happy to be here with you. In the interim, however, though, I think it's more important if you're wondering, where is Tony? Where is Mr. Marvelite? Well, the great news is he's at C2E2, and even though he's away, he's still thinking about you all.
Hey, thank you for joining us on Fandoms. I'm glad that Will is taking over so that I can be here at C2E2 in Chicago. And if you cannot already tell, with the music behind me, we are in full swing for this convention this weekend. And with that, there's lots of things that you can do here, whether it's enjoy all the cosplay, check out the celebrities, go toy hunting, or even check out some of the comic books. We're going to show you some things that we would recommend based off of what we've experienced already here on day one. So, Derek, take it away.
What's going on, Nerd Initiative? This is Derek here from C2E2. I am coming to you from Collector Supreme. One of the greatest things about any comic book convention is going on the hunt for the missing pieces in your collection. This has been the best place to go so far. If you are at C2E2 in Chicago this weekend, make sure that you go and check them out. They are at booth 1309. You will not regret it. They've got a great selection, fantastic prices, and you get to go rifling through all the long boxes to find what you're really looking for. I highly recommend them. Now, to talk about some of the action figures, I'm going to throw it over to Mickey.
What's up, fans, geeks, and nerds? It's your boy Mickey with Play for Keeps, coming to you from Nerd Initiative here at C2E2. And the most important thing of going to a con is the thrill of the toy hunt. And it can be really hard to find reasonable prices at a place like this. Secondhand sellers tend to mark things up, and, you know, that's their business. They can do what they want. But also you have places like Their Action Figures and So-Called Toys, who offer prices at a very reasonable rate. They're trying to put their best foot forward. They will haggle with you, especially if you're buying a lot of extra action figures, but they're giving you a good deal. I wouldn't try to undercut them too much. So if you're at C2E2 this weekend, be sure to check them out at booth 1337, and they'll be at other cons like New York Comic Con. Check them out there. You'll find a great deal on a great collectible. Back to you, Will.
Back to who? What? Wow. I feel so a part of the Nerd Initiative now. Obviously, my takeover plans are nearly complete. I merely need one username and one password, and it is all mine. Quick shout out also, as always, to Rich, the man in the chair, there to help out every single week. So when I say I'm responsible, I'm not really responsible. I do have some leeway, and thankfully, the one thing I was counting on, we do have some folks in the chat, so we can have this one-man discussion, this one-man message, this essentially a podcast that is the sound of one hand clapping. Oh, guess what? Never mind. Well, we'll give right credit anyway. But Tony might actually be in here driving things too. He can't be on camera and he can't be on mic. I really hope this means that he's in a very crowded room right now, listening to somebody talk or hosting a panel. Boy, how awesome would it be if you were at C2E2 hosting a panel while switching a show? That would be multitasking at a level none of us ever would have expected. Now, the really cool thing, guys, that I gotta take the time to remind you about is that the Nerd Initiative, though it is a collective where everyone can be a fan of what it is they're a fan of, the important thing to remember is that we've got to keep the lights on. That is right. We have got to keep things going. So be sure to check out the Nerd Initiative shop and get some of that sweet Nerd Initiative swag for you to go ahead and show everyone that you believe in people being fans of whatever it is they want to be fans of, free of judgment, free of concern, and just not free of fun, but complete with fun. Often you see Tony wearing the Nerd Initiative hat. Who can't use a new coffee tumbler? Be sure to check that out. Also, don't forget as well, all of the cool things going on over at nerdinitiative.com. all of the articles that are written about all of the finer geekery that is going on this week. Don't forget, new comic book day reviews every week, and you can scan to read them all right there. And you know what? While we're at it, just don't forget to check out all the other fine programming that the Nerd Initiative puts out. I know that Thursdays are a little stressful for Tony when we do Netheads, because he hates the concept of any shows competing or overlapping, like Wrestling Night Live on Thursdays, co-hosted by our good man Rich as well. So be sure to check all of those fine things out. Help us keep the doors open, the lights on, and everybody having a good time. So, kids, actually, you know what? The cool thing is that Tony's in the chat. I don't know that he can hear me though. Actually, he can, because he was posting those things up. So the only question I really have is that there are some preloaded images as well, because has been mentioned before, my name is Will. I'm here filling in while Tony is at C2E2 in Chicago. Big entertainment convention, big comic convention, and the like, as you saw from the recommendations. And I was, I'm going through all this stuff beforehand, because I'm like, oh, what's in here? How does all of this work? What can I break? And I saw that there were some images that have already been loaded, and I'm wondering, I'm pretty sure those are from the C2E2 floor, and I'm sure they're actually there for the guys to talk about later. But you know what? Let's not tell them what's going on. Let's just get a quick preview. You can pretend to be me. Look at the guys right there, excited to be at the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. Look at the joy. Look at the glee on their faces. I feel so good for them. Oh, great. Cosplayers too. I wonder how that place is going to be ripe with Deadpools and X-Men. Oh my goodness. This is the kind of thing that I miss, and the kind of thing that I love. I am a person, I'm a big fan of cosplay. I'm a big fan of dressing up for a con. Mario and Luigi. Well played, boys. Well played. And you gotta love somebody that's got a face hugger on their face, and they got a Ripley by their side. Lots of good stuff going on, man. I can't wait for them to be able to talk about all the cool things going on. Pointing out X-Men presence is actually strong this year. I'm not surprised. I know that there are a lot of people that are going cuckoo for actually, you know what? Before we talk about that stuff, because I know Tony would be excited, I actually started watching X-Men 97. I'm only 2 in right now, though. Things keep coming up. But one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to do a special shout out to all the cosplayers that were in their hotel rooms at 2 a.m. trying to figure out how they were going to get that thing to work, whatever that thing is, the piece that needed to be connected on, the thing that got broken in transit, whatever it was. Congratulations when you got there on the con floor this morning wearing it, guys, and also to the ways that you patched it up while you were on the floor as well, because we all know it's going to come apart one way or another. So hats off to you guys. I have never gone to a con full-blown committed into wearing cosplay. The only thing that I did was a mild commitment by cosplaying as one of my bosses, Kevin Smith. And that just involved wearing jorts, a jacket, and a t-shirt. Real easy to do. Excuse me. So anyway, I just wanted to today is going to be a loose show, probably going to be shorter than normal, no doubt. But we've had a lot of stuff going on, and if you haven't checked out Netheads on Air, please do so. The control room is out of control, everyone. Have you ever seen, was it Duck Amuck? Is that the name of the particular episode where it's basically Daffy Duck versus the cartoonist drawing all kinds of nonsense in? I have a funny feeling that's what we're in for tonight. But what I wanted to discuss, there were really two things, and really look into the chat room to help kind of keep me honest here, and also bring some ideas and some conversation. But we did get the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, and we talked about this a little last night on Netheads. But I just have to say, and this ties into where we're going, I just have to say that I'm super excited to see the things that I saw in it. And I think also earlier today, Sean Levy, I think it is Levy. I never know the right name. Well, Dan Levy spells his the same name, but anyway, he said that you don't need to do homework in order to track this movie. So in other words, you don't need to go into all of the MCU things that have happened in the past, all the X-Men movies as well, that kind of thing. It's not going to require any homework to enjoy. So that's great to hear. But, one of the things that we didn't really see anything of in the trailer, other than you have to remember, any trailer that comes out, the MCU lies to you. Marvel lies to us, guys. Marvel lies to us all the time. You remember those ads for Infinity War where they're charging on the field or in the jungle and the Hulk is in the back? And then you saw the movie and you were like, where'd my Hulk go? That kind of thing. They lie. Or Spider-Man No Way Home. The scene where 3 villains are flying through the air at Spider-Man. And you're like, well, who are these guys swinging at? And then hopefully an international trailer doesn't drop where you see that thin air is hitting the head of the lizard. And you're like, they took some things out. There's a shot in that trailer where we're in front of the gigantic Ant-Man costume with a head still in it, in the helmet. And there is just a lot of open space. Actually, we got it too in one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. In some of the early advertisements for Avengers Endgame, there was a scene of people walking in the time travel outfits. There were gaps. There were definitely gaps. But with Deadpool and Wolverine in that particular scene, I really think people are missing. People aren't seen. And one of the things that I am hoping for, and I'm not hoping for it essentially because I'm a fan, but I am hoping and I am praying in order to solidify the success of this film, which I think is pretty much a lock. I think every time we see something that seems multiversal, we really come out in droves. We had the hint of it with No Way Home, and boy howdy did we give Multiverse of Madness a try, right? This movie has multiversal implications. So I think in that it's going to be successful. We've got Hugh Jackman coming out of retirement for Wolverine. That is going to bring people in, old and new. By the way, I just have to deviate for a second. But what I really hope, no, I won't deviate. What I really hope and what I pray is that when it comes to Deadpool and Wolverine, we do actually have, as some of the rumor people have speculated, okay, because there's a certain female artist who is tight friends with Ryan Reynolds and his wife, and has familiarity with writer director partner Sean Levy in this one. Levy, whatever. If you know where I'm going, we've been hoping, we've been praying, and it's been long rumored that Taylor Swift would be like Dazzler in this movie, which would be, first of all, very on point. The only thing that frightens me is that in this movie, the only thing that frightens me is that usually if these type of filmmakers catch wind that we're onto something, and Marvel has such an amazing track record at always having reshoots down to the wire. It could take a hard left turn on us before we even knew it. Who would have thought, if the blink and you missed it moment where Brad Pitt was in Deadpool 2, right? So it's not beyond the realm of sanity that this can happen. And what I'm really hoping is that it's true. Not because of being a fan of the artist, not because of being a fan of Taylor Swift. No, I wanted to lock in the financial winning of this movie, because if the Swifties catch wind of it, okay, I don't know if these Swifties. Now think about this: Taylor Swift, boyfriend Travis Kelce. I know Kelsey. If you're not a fan of the New Heights podcast, you don't know what I'm talking about. But that's the whole point. Not only is he an amazing athlete, okay, not only is he an amazing tight end, but he and his brother have a very successful podcast. I guarantee you, the moment it was known he was dating Taylor Swift, New Heights went to new heights, if you know what I mean. So I want that Taylor Swift effect. I want those Swifties to come in droves to see the movie. Because, also, if she's in it, guys, there will be a dropping of a hint that on the second weekend or the third weekend, they'll work it in with like the number 13 or something. That's kind of how they do it. Or it'll be like 1-3, or, I don't know. It'll be something. But they'll get them to go back on one of the subsequent weekends, because especially the second weekend is the one they would do, because in box office, what they are all about, okay, is that drop off in the second week. That tells them a solid story. I'm sure much in the same way that Netflix is able to actually recommend good things to me if I give it a chance, because their algorithm knows me. Much in that same way, we'd have the exact same type of thing here, that somebody somewhere has an algorithm and it says if this movie has this percentage of less drop off in the second weekend, then you are guaranteed X times Y to get that. And that's what I would expect to see happen if it's involved. If not, Tony in the chat room saying, but if she isn't, it's okay. Marvel fans can shake it off. Yes, but I want the Swifties to get. Why are you busting out dad jokes while I'm sitting here trying to have a cohesive conversation with the people in the chat room? How dare you, sir? I bet you it's just eating you up that I have essentially taken over your show. Actually, I hope it's not. And I'm really sad that you're switching it, because it means you're not out having fun like you should be. So that is really one of the things that I'm hoping for in Deadpool and Wolverine. And that's it. Literally, that's all I'm hoping for. I am not theorizing. I am not coming up with what is it called? When you're trying to figure out what's happening in a movie. But I don't have any theories. I don't have any ideas. I'm not projecting anything onto this movie. I have absolutely no expectations for it. What I have is a lot more interest in the concept of it after we saw that trailer. It hit all just the right beats. It gave me just enough to go like, ooh, what? Oh, yeah. Oh, I like this. This is a direction I never would have expected when it's something that's affiliated with Disney. So, wow, Marvel's not really gone this deep before. This is interesting. A lot of that from the trailer. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But I think it's like broken some of the records for views. So, I'm pretty much sure everybody in the world has seen it now. And that's it. That's for me. That's all I want to see. This is it. I don't want to see any more trailers, no TV teases. I don't want to see international trailers. I don't want to see anything. I just want to go in and I want to enjoy the damn movie. That's all I want to do. Okay? So let's all make an agreement right now. No spoilers, no more trailers. Chris Evans playing Johnny Storm again is a fun rumor. Like anything is possible, especially considering, it really seems like part of this is the death of the 20th Century Fox, Marvel and mutant, themed movies. That it's an end of that era, and he's putting it down, if you will. Maybe. So I wouldn't be surprised, but also they're not gonna. I don't think they're going to really go for that much in this movie. I think when the next time we see an actual movie named Avengers, that's where you're going to see that type of thing happen. They gave us a little tongue in cheek with Multiverse of Madness, which is part of the discussion. Believe it or not, I actually want to have. Wow, we're actually done like 20 minutes of this, and it's just me. Woo! Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine. That's the long and short of it. Hoping Taylor Swift is in it, so that way it goes through the roof. And I'm hoping it's a story that knocks my socks off, because I don't know what it is. In the past 2 Deadpool movies, there have actually been moments that have made me cry, and I'm hoping for that again. So we shall see. But what I really wanted to talk about tonight, I'm looking at this and contemplating. Let me take a sip. Sorry, there's nothing. I got nothing to cut to. What I really wanted to talk about tonight, not so much what I talked about last night on Netheads, in case I didn't happen to mention it. We should ring a bell every time I do a plug, and that way we know just how much of a self-promoting narcissist I truly am. Let's move on from that, though. We are now, there you go. There's your QR code, and there's the image of me from over 10 damn years ago. Whew. And I don't, it's more than that with that image, too. That, I look like I ate that guy. Out of context? No. So, what I really wanted to talk about, today is the day, folks. Okay, we're starting to see a lot of coverage on social media. Yes, technically, it was also yesterday. But today is the day that was originally considered like the day that Avengers Endgame came out. The culmination of an 11-year journey tying several movies loosely together to wrap up in a final story. The thing that we later learned they now refer to is the Infinity Saga, right? These are the Infinity cards, Infinity Stone cards. So the Infinity Saga, that's what we ended up getting. Now, I will tell you something, okay? I have a firm belief based on everything we have seen. Because, up until that point, we had good movies, we had okay movies. Other than Thor Dark World, I don't really think we would say we had a bad movie in that bunch, right? There wasn't really anything that was cringe-worthy. Uh, it was all relatively good, I think. And in that respect, I think what really happened is that Marvel got lucky. I'm not going to lie. I don't think there was a grand plan. Earlier, I talked about how Marvel is famous for reshoots. And part of the reason why they say we've seen a bit of a drop in quality, part of the reason why they say there's something missing, when whatever the name of the guy was that was before what's his name came back at Disney. I'm great with names tonight. I'm really tired. I was so amped last night. I didn't really go to sleep all that much. So I'm really worn. My mind wanders a little bit. But listen, uh, what I was trying to say is that, they really, Feige would look at the movie and then he would say, it's missing this, that, and the other thing. And they would have a reshoot for this, that, and the other thing. And they would get it in there. And that's kind of how these things came about. Yes, there was a lot of controversy for Age of Ultron because I don't believe he wanted to include the sauna room scene, as I like to call it, about the water cave where Thor has a vision and he's like, "Oh, there are these bad stones. I gotta bounce later, y'all." Um, I don't think that I know that happened, and it enables to get something good. Uh, oh, I guess Tony's saying there was also a creative committee that was for a while that became too much. So, but yeah, Kevin Feige, after they got the marching orders for Disney Plus to have original content there as well for Marvel, I think I honestly feel that somebody really thought they were more clever than they were. And I say that because, you know, they how do I put this? I think the best way to put it is like coming Hall H 2019, San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel's presentation. They showed us where had they been, they showed us where they were going. And I think the big error there was they mapped out a timeline and they said like all of these things are happening in the same world, they'll interweave with one another. They set an expectation. And realistically speaking, even though there was a global pandemic in there, it's not really one that they met. Yes, we've seen some of it. WandaVision leads us to the moments of Multiverse of Madness, right? And also WandaVision plus Miss Marvel brings us to the Marvels. So there's that cinematic aspect. But right now, what else do we have? And for gosh sakes, give me my Moon Knight in the MCU. I want to see him muck it up with a potential Deadpool inclusion. Also, I hope Deadpool isn't dead by the end of this movie because I'm sure there's only so long that Ryan Reynolds realistically wants to play the character. I mean, I think he wasn't even interested originally in a Deadpool 3. So, they kind of set this expectation and there was a lot of stuff and really unfortunately they had a lot of bad beats at the same time, right? Because you had Secret Wars happen or Secret Invasion happen, and nobody that I know liked that story. Nobody did whatsoever. Multiverse of Madness has good points, but kind of a mess of a movie. Shang-Chi was a slam dunk. They got that one completely right. But where are we now that we've gotten to Endgame and beyond? One, they shouldn't have been projecting out so much. Just give us some teases about a few cool projects, show us some footage, give us a smack on the rump and get out the door. That's what they should have done in the first place. Second place, again, I really think a lot of these things since Endgame, they have best intentions, but because they were blowing it up so much that they were able to tie these things together per se through the films, which again, I other than the Tesseract being just about everywhere, the Infinity Stones in some cases are shoved into the story or they're a part of the story, but interconnecting, like a big narrative across, kind of maybe. Um, I think that moving forward, we still got to kind of look back. I've already said my piece about Disney Plus, right? The Disney Plus shows. I've already mapped that out. That's all we're gonna do. The danger with Deadpool is Marvel is banking on it to cause a course correct. No, I'm hoping they're using it for a course correct, and I don't think that's a bad thing to bank on because it doesn't have to be as well. There are easily ways they can pull the ripcord and to go a different direction. I mean, it's all one incursion away from being reset again and again, right? That's all it takes. They don't need much. They just need that. So let's take a look at what happened and let's not even get into the Disney Plus of it all. And and here's the bad thing. I'm going to say these words now that we are, mind you, from Iron Man to Endgame, 11 years. Endgame to right now. Let's just say Endgame to Deadpool and Wolverine. Roughly 5 years. Almost half that journey has traversed. And what do we have that are the cohesive elements? They're not really there. I think, did we come out of the pandemic first with Eternals? Was that what we got? Was it Eternals and then No Way, or no, Far From Home? No, not Far From Home. Was it No Way Home? Huh. Oh, that's right. We actually came out the gate with the Disney Plus premiere of Black Widow, which again, that movie's extremely rewatchable. But the problem is that other than giving us Yelena and Red Guardian, what else does it serve? And that's the problem because with Black Widow, now that I think about it, because it's an amazing story that should have been told before Infinity War, right? But it almost just serves as a vehicle to serve up those players for us. That's what it does. It's so you're finally giving Black Widow her movie, but now it's got to be multifunctional. Okay, great. So we've got Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and then No Way Home. Perfect. Again, I already said Shang-Chi hit it out of the park. The only bad thing about Shang-Chi is that right now we have Shang-Chi. Right now, we still have no idea what the beacon was that the rings sent out. Because really, coming out early and strong like that with a pretty good, darn good installment, high entertainment value, a good balance of action and comedy. I could go on, and of course, a lead that is just not only impressive to look at, but also the kind of person seemingly where you're just like, I want that dude to be my friend. I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to hang out with him. I don't want to be in a position, but I want to be his friend. I want him as my next door neighbor, right? That's what Simu Liu, best friend of everyone. But of course, naturally, he's Canadian, so that's part of the reason why he's so great, right? Right. So Shang-Chi set us up with the beacon it was sending out, but what is it all about? We don't know much. We don't really have much beyond that. Just that this beacon happened. Nobody knows what it's summoning. What is it for? So then we move on to Eternals, which is I think that was well, there's one way Eternals works, guys. If certain elements as we go down the line stay the same, by the time you get to Secret Wars, there's a part of Eternals that makes sense, but it's really, really a small dang part. Okay. But other than that, Eternals basically told a story about incredible uh, powered beings that were here to kind of help protect humanity. And then they did absolutely nothing when things were going to crap for 5 years, right? Oh, man. Tony's phone is about to die. So good luck, man. Don't worry. I won't successfully sign off the show and this thing will be running for 12 hours. So with Shang-Chi, you've got this great setup. Eternals, not so much. Because really, where were you guys when we were in a moment of dire need? Especially spoilers when you get to, this is why Eternals doesn't make sense. And I never realized it until this very moment. Okay, I mean, other than the fact that you can't be everywhere and know everything that's going on, but I would think if you are these beings sent by Erisham to basically protect the population of the planet, because its energy is feeding the birth of another god. Okay? That's why you exist. That's what your programming is. Spoilers. That's what your programming is. You are supposed to protect the undue external influence from occurring, and you are supposed to protect the development of this race. Yet somehow they don't get concerned at all, and they don't have anything to warn them that space people are dropping gigantic obelisks onto the planet, and there's a big old fight happening. Which, by the way, if you think about it, the thing I love about storytelling in movies, right, is the moment you have to realize the reason why we are cutting between action scenes and people is because it's all happening concurrently, right? It's all happening at once. So even though we're on the battlefield in Wakanda and all this stuff is going on, and then we cut to Thor and Rocket and Groot getting Stormbreaker forged, the reason why that has to happen is because the story is happening concurrently. So, it's just one of the aspects of film that I love, but also I have the biggest problem with it because things seem like they're a lot longer than they are. Anyway, Eternals, if their whole job, what I'm saying is, okay, maybe sure, the fight could have been short too. So they really didn't have time to mobilize. But one of them guys one of them people one of the Eternals could go run really, really fast. Okay. Another one could basically had the powers of Superman. So really could have gotten there quick. So if your whole objective is to protect humanity, I would think an alien invasion is just as bad as whatever the doodahs that they were fighting. I can't even remember. That's how unimpressive Eternals was. But there is one reason why Eternals could happen. And I always come back to this. Secret Wars. Now, there have been at least kind of 2 to 3 Secret Wars events in the history of Marvel Comics. The one I always relate to the most is the Secret Wars that occurs the first time. And guys, I hate to date myself, but this was back in the 80s. When Pooja said, "Did you know that there was a TV show called The Fall Guy?" I'm like, "Yes, I used to watch it. Thanks." Anyway, the original Secret Wars run was a high concept project. It was a great crossover. It added a lot of mystery to the main runs because basically every comic book had a time jump. They got all of the heroes and all the villains on Earth or in the galaxy that we know get drawn to a planet that is built together by pieces of planets. So all the heroes were on a block or whatever, they got sucked up. Same thing. A battle planet, if you will, is built together. And there is a being, an all-encompassing being, a seeming and all-powerful being called the Beyonder. And the Beyonder, while observing our universe, because in his universe or its universe, the Beyonder is all things, okay? So just take the concept of all of what we know about space and time and then basically make them one being. All of these things are the Beyonder. The Beyonder is all those things. But through an event and a rip in the fabric of space and time, the Beyonder observes us and tries to understand the nature of good and evil. Simple enough, right? So, through the observation, Beyonder sees these things clashing, puts these things together to see and understand good versus evil and who would win, I guess. Interesting story, too, because at one point, I think Doctor Doom harnesses the technology of Galactus to absorb all of the power of the Beyonder. That was an interesting moment. That's also where Spider-Man got his black costume. Now, I bring this all up because that being I described in film, In a comic book panel, it's easy to understand, and maybe you could get it across with exposition, but it's still kind of high concept to understand. Good, evil, gigantic being, all encompassing. Very difficult to understand. By the end of Eternals, Erishim comes. And by the way, where is there any mention? Tony has always brought it up. What about the giant ivory god in the Indian Ocean? But also, how come nobody is talking about that moment where the gigantic, seemingly alien robot spaceman reached down to Earth and grabbed people and left? There were eyewitnesses, right? People saw that. It's no wonder in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Christmas special, the minute the people on the street see a spaceship flying overhead, they're panicking. And that's like the only way you might be able to extrapolate a reference. But the important thing to take from there is that while Erishim is holding his Eternals, he says, what is it that is so special about these people that you would sacrifice a god? People, not emo, quiet robots. What makes these people so special you would kill a god for? What is it? And one of the final moments is basically that Erishim will reserve judgment or cast judgment and determine there, in other words, a judgment. The only reason why Eternals exists and makes sense, other than the fact of having an amazing crew and somebody really wanting to tell that story for some reason, is that Erishim could be the driving force behind Secret Wars if it goes in that original direction. And that's the only theory that you'll ever see me put out, because it's the only thing where I don't even want to say it makes sense. Okay. It's just the only thing that I can extrapolate out of Eternals. That's all I can do. Excuse me. So that's the only thing I can take out of why Eternals had to happen. The only thing. After that, it's just like I don't see a way where it fits in. I don't see a way where it makes sense. I just don't. I'm sorry. And then you get to No Way Home, which had to exist first of all to get all the girlies in, so that they could see their Spider-Man, and so that Sony and Marvel could make lots and lots of money and kind of really bring us into the concept of multiversal incursions. The multiverse saga that we learned they were banking on. And then a lot of eggs they put in their basket of that were Kang problems already. So, that's what we've been given. The first things we had been fed. Then we got what else? So this is the reason why you got to have other people, or why you got to do your homework, folks. Because I didn't, and now I'm not remembering the movies anymore. But it's kind of like multiverse with Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. It was an okay story, but it wasn't the greatest. Let's be honest. And what did it do other than to expand on the concept of the multiverse that we already kind of got from No Way Home? It was a cool look at it. And the problem with Multiverse of Madness is that back in 2019, Kevin Feige said it was going to be Marvel's first horror movie. And it was definitely horrific. It definitely had some horror moments, right? But it didn't necessarily have horror. I think maybe some of the attacks by Scarlet Witch, and of course the way Doctor Strange takes part in the end story in the third act, that kind of makes sense too. But other than that, not very horrific, right? And doesn't really accomplish any more to teach us about the problems of the multiverse outside of what we got out of No Way Home. The thing it does do is it gives us America Chavez. That's what it does. Okay, because if you're going to have a multiversal saga, you've got to have a being that can easily traverse the multiverse. So again, you find a way for it to make sense. Okay? And that's why that movie really has to exist, because No Way Home covers it all. And as a matter of fact, No Way Home 2 did a great job of continuing the theme that no matter what Peter Parker does, he always gets the short end of the stick. But Peter Parker is also always going to do the right thing. And in the end, he knew, I started this and I assisted in messing everything up. Everything is at risk. So if everyone has to forget me, that is a small price to pay to protect the people that I love and all of reality. But and it took a left turn that I wasn't expecting. Another reason why it was great. And I really enjoyed the stuff that we got with being able to see the other Spider-Man. But it told us, I think, everything we needed from multiversal knowledge. So did really need Multiverse of Madness? At least it gave us another Doctor Strange movie, I guess. Quantumania. That was a hot mess in the easiest way of putting it. It really lost some of the heart of the first two movies. And what did it do to move the narrative forward? Other than, the concept of the Council of Kangs, which there are many of, which, hey, that group of superpowered beings, the Illuminati that was in Multiverse of Madness, shouldn't these brainiacs been aware of, like, Kang activities? You're so worried about protecting your universe, your reality. We missing something here, guys? There's story gaps. You see, there's story problems. But they are what they are. Essentially, we haven't gotten enough of decent cohesiveness yet. I think, interestingly enough, the most cohesion we've seen has just been the things that we get from Disney Plus and the Disney Plus shows. But, if you set the expectation that you're really going to be accomplishing something special, and that you've already been that's one of the things too that they did in 2019. I am not kidding. In the room, Kevin Feige started bringing up all the continued references of the 10 rings that were happening in the movies beyond what we originally got in Iron Man 3. So he was making the implication the seeds have been planted, that the story is ready to be told, right? And we are going to be so impressed by the end. And now, of course, everything is going to be bent on its ear, which brings us back to the beauty, hopefully, of Deadpool and Wolverine, because, it can be the nail in the coffin for the 20th century Fox Marvel verse, okay? It can be that. And it can also be a line drawn in the sand where, narratively speaking, its story can happen. And then somebody else in subsequent movies can just as easily said, well, after Star Trek The Next Generation always referred to the battle with the Borg as Wolf 359. Okay, and this could kind of be the MCU's Wolf 359. It's the thing that can always point back to and say, well, this is the reason why things are a little different now, because of what happened there and the ramifications and the implications of what that did. It doesn't have to, in the story, tell that part, but it just needs to provide the fix for it. That's all it needs to do. That's it. Okay, as well as being a damn good story. But it can serve as kind of like that line in the sand where, well, because this happened, that happened. Much in the same way that for years and years, on the CW's Flash, we just celebrated yesterday the date of the Flash Vanishes Missing in Crisis Day, Flash Vanishes Day, whatever you want to call it. We were in 2014 or late 2014, early 2015. We were actually, no, it was actually in the end of the very first episode when Harrison Wells goes into the time vault. I think he looks at that news article at the same time. Flash Vanishes in Crisis, August 25th, 2014. And no, 2024, you dummy. April 25th. I may have even said August. April 25th, 2024. That's the day that it happens. Crisis Day. And for years we were given that date. But pretty much when the writing was on the wall, they wanted to, in the Arrowverse, tell their Infinite Crisis story because they had been broadcasting it since Jump Street on The Flash. And they just were very easily able to say, you know what? A couple seasons ago, when Barry reset the timeline and did Flashpoint and then attempted to put it back, from that moment, everything changed. Same exact thing. Same thing. He had those implications or those changes had an impact. Ripples were sent out. And when the writing was on the wall and they knew, guys, we're not much longer for this network. We really want to tell this story. They just said, hey, remember when you did that Flashpoint thing? Well, that bumped up the timetable there, Barry. Don't worry about April 25th, 2024. Crisis happens a lot sooner, bro. It does. And that's what Deadpool and Wolverine could be. That's what it could be. Very easily. What do I think about the future of the MCU? The final point of discussion tonight. Look, first of all, in the end, it is just movies. You know what I mean? It's just entertainment. We want it to be good because we want it to continue because we enjoy these movies. Those of us that do. So we want to see the stories continue. The guy in charge of Disney now, I always forget his name when I want to talk about him. He basically said they're going to focus less on quantity and more on quality, which is exactly what you want to hear. Is it going to be enough? I think so. I think that they will have certain beats occur. And I think by the time we get to the end of this, in a multiverse where anything can happen, much in the same way that we got ridiculous rumors for Multiverse of Madness that we would be seeing like alternate versions of Tony Stark. What was the rumor? It was that Tom Cruise was going to be a multiversal version of Tony Stark from somewhere. Didn't happen. But that, I always thought after we knew that most of the OG Avengers were retiring after Endgame, I think that walking out of that theater, the very first thing I thought was, you know what? It's really simple. Another 10 or 11 years. That's where Marvel brings out at that point. You just refer to them as the legacy characters. And they pull those toys out of the closet. They're a little different. They're a little bit older. I'm really kind of an idiot. All right. I'm not gonna lie. At the end of Endgame, it used to always bother me that Steve Rogers was an old man. And yeah, the Steve Rogers that we saw in the movies, it was never really explicitly said as far as I know. But he was supposed to have the regenerative healing factor. Spider-Man, because of his abilities, he's supposed to heal a little bit faster, okay, at a minimum. Obviously, Wolverine can heal very fast. His regenerative abilities were amazing, okay? So Steve Rogers was supposed to have that, but it's never explicitly said that it stops aging. I mean, you think it would. But then again, that's like using a battery to keep a machine going. Eventually, the battery's going to give out, powering the machine. Not to mention this version of Steve Rogers went right back to like the 40s, right? So now he's also lived another 80 years. Anyway, so I always thought I was dumb that I never realized that. Excuse me. So, I think that they will course correct enough to give us some quality. Obviously, there are changes that are being forced upon them because of external circumstances, but there's also the changes financially that have been affixed to them. So we're going to see a refocus. They're going to only give us that which they know. We're out of an experimental phase. You know what I mean? We're not going to be experimenting anymore. We're not going to be doing an Eternals, right? Eternals may be part of the narrative, but highly unlikely we would see in Eternals 2, at least for now, unless they come up with an amazing story. The reason why I will never discount Marvel is because they were the people that took the most obscure team in comic books, the hardest one to translate, the one that folks had a talking raccoon. And they said, you know what? One creative mind came in and said, there's a story here, and turned it around and took this obscure team and made them one of the most beloved group of Marvel characters that has been. So much so, they did a Christmas special. Okay? So, what I'm saying is, you can't discount Marvel. You just can't. There is always the possibility that they can just tank it, that they could have the one thing that would be so off tone and so off theme that it could tank all future things. But I think there is always that possibility. And if anything, we'll walk out of Deadpool and Wolverine knowing where we're going, and we'll know we're in good hands. And that's all I want. That's all I want. I mean, there's a lot of eggs in this Deadpool and Wolverine basket, y'all. Only MCU movie we're getting. I think the next one we get is Thunderbolts, or I always forget which one is coming out in April or in February. I don't know if that's the new Captain America movie. But, we got that to look forward to. We get to see Sam as Captain America. That's coming up. That's the, I got to be honest, that's the next one that worries me. Not because of what we saw in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but just because, conceptually speaking, I mean, Sam has heart, Sam has a shield, and Sam has rocket-powered wings, courtesy of Wakanda. But he doesn't have other abilities, so he's got to rely on those things. So, I mean, obviously, it's the next one that worries me. I think if we make it out of Captain America: Brave New World, it's not New World Order, right? It's something else. I think if we make it out of there okay, then we're going to be fine, because obviously the Captain America portion of the franchise has been the one that's been the strongest to date. Say what you will. I know upon my first viewing of Captain America, the First Avenger, I thought it was okay. Interestingly enough, in the back of my mind, I thought this is a lot tonally like The Rocketeer, and directed by the same guy. But the writers of that moved on to Winter Soldier and Civil War, and then took us into Infinity War and Endgame so well. And somewhere along the line, we're going to find somebody that does that for the next few movies, because that's one of the things that Marvel has to do to really know that they're going to move on. But that Captain America franchise just kept getting progressively better and better. So there's a lot on the table for another Captain America movie, So we'll see how it goes. Keep your fingers crossed, kids. That's all we can do. Want to remind everybody, of course, that here at the Nerd Initiative, the most important thing, and the reason why I love it, is because you are free to be a fan of what you want, free of judgment, free of concern, a community that you can enjoy speaking with. Sorry, I literally wolfed down 11 buffalo wings right before we got here. I'm amazed I have not been just so incredibly obnoxious the whole time. Just with burps, I know I'm incredibly obnoxious otherwise. Don't forget Nerd Initiative. Not only is it all those great things, but it's also a creative hub. You can go to nerdinitiative.com. You can read all about all the articles that are present there. You can, one of the other things too is that one of the things you can do is you can try and also, if you got an idea, I bet you could approach people potentially about doing that. But all kinds of new information, articles out about new Comic Wednesday all the time, other original programming other than Fandoms that happens every other week. Also want to mention that, I'm sure 2 weeks from today is going to be the episode of Fandoms where the guys recap C2E2. So I don't know if they're going to let me play in their clubhouse for that one, because it might be a full boat already, right? And also, don't forget about all the amazing merch that is available over at the Nerd Initiative merch store. You can check out all of the wonderful things, the mugs, the hats, the t-shirts, get some gear, and show people that you're a fan of things by supporting the Nerd Initiative. And, that's about it. Look for me where you can. Over on social media, I'm that Will Wilkins, WILLWILKINS. You can also check out my podcast, Netheads, which you can find Kevin Smith's Smodcast website, smodcast.com, Netheads podcast. We go live every Thursday. Why? Because live is fun. Live is high risk. But in the long run, if you do it right, live also means you don't have to edit in the end. Thanks for joining me on this Marvel journey, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the wild ramblings of a guy just trying to remember what movies came out and what good they may be able to provide us. Until next time, just most importantly, be a fan of what you love, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. Now, one of the things they always do, and I have the ability to control some stuff. You're like, wait, didn't you just wrap up the show? I did. Okay, I did. But, and it's a big but, one of the things that you always need to do for a YouTube video is you need to have an extra 20 seconds so you can post up some ed cards for other people to go to. So again, don't forget, be a fan of what you love, as long as it doesn't hurt people. Till next time, guys.